Welcome to Fine Art Diary. Today we are going to paint this pond water step by step. You already have seen me painting this waterscape, but many of you suggested to reduce the volume of the music so that you can hear the voiceover properly. So here it is. For this particular painting, I am going to use this 16 by 12 inch 10 ounce canvas board. Before doing anything, let me introduce the color palette. I am using Artist Acrylic color and the colors I am going to use will be Titanium White, Cad Yellow Medium, Yellow Ochre, Permanent Yellow Medium, Vermilion, Crimson Lake, Deep Magenta, Cobalt Blue, Ultramarine Blue, Cerulean Blue, and I am using two earth tones. Those are Raw Sienna and Paints Grey. So let's jump into the painting. Here I am mixing a mid-value color by mixing blues and yellows. Also, let's take Raw Sienna and a touch of crimson. And we are ready to start. We are painting shallow water, so the underneath surface will be visible to the water surface, and that will appear very dull. That's what I am trying to do right now. The upper layer will be much more chromatic and saturated. At the same time, I am trying to give a color variation also. You can see I am working with blues and greens, and now I am also adding reds just to create variation from the base layer itself, and this also will be visible in our final result. Now adding yellows to it and making it little more chromatic. This is the region where the direct sunlight is hitting through the water surface, and that is the reason I added yellow to it. In the foreground, stones will be there, and that is the reason I am making it darker and towards the brown. Let's moist the surface so that blending color will be easy for me. Acrylic color will dry very fast, but we can keep the surface moist by continuously sprinkling water to it. Once again added yellow to it to give the hints of the sunlight. In this painting, almost the entire area is the water surface, and that is seen through the reflections. So first of all, I am going to add the darker reflections and then later on the lighter reflections. Let's block in the dark areas. At the very beginning, the color layers will be very thin and transparent, and gradually it will become thick and opaque towards the end. You can mix a beautiful green by mixing cerulean and cad yellow medium. At the left hand side of the canvas, the sunlight is directly hitting, and that is the reason I will keep this area a little more chromatic than the right hand side. Alright, now let's block in the log lying down on the surface. And for that I am mixing ultramarine blue, deep magenta and a touch of raw sienna. The block-in will define the size of the object and the composition of the scene. So if the block-in is correct, the final output is going to be correct in terms of the proportion. I am emphasizing the shadow inside the water. Alright, now let's mix the color for the log. I am using raw sienna and Payne's grey, yellow ochre, a touch of white. Let's add little more yellows and also reds. Now let's get into the painting. Alright, we have got the position of the log, and now let's mix the color cerulean blue and white to get the cool bounce light on the log. This is a sky bounce, so the color is cool. Now you can see the log is getting the volume. Coming back to my dark color, what I previously mixed to paint the volume shadow of the log. Now you can see, little by little, the log is getting its volume. So once again I will explain what exactly I am doing. I started with the mid value of the log and I got the composition and proportion of it. And then I modeled the light areas, and now I am painting the shadows. So automatically the log is getting its volume. Adding raw sienna to the same mixture, and my next step will be adding the stones in the foreground. Here you can see how randomly I am positioning the stones. Now taking the darker mixture of it and filling up the gaps in between the stones, so that it will create a sense of the depth. I will continue doing the same thing throughout the foreground. It has to be very random, not very much precise, because everything in nature is not the same, but everything is in variation. So in this case also, the stones will be different in size and different in values, different in hues. To do that, we have to give very spontaneous brush strokes. Later on, I will come back and will do the blocking of the individual stones but right now everything is spontaneous. For now, I am only positioning the stones and nothing else. While painting, we may take references, but we should not copy everything whatever is there in that picture, but we have to compose our own painting, and then only it will be considered as an artwork. Alright, now let's do the block-in of the light areas of the stones. For that, I am mixing titanium white, raw sienna and a touch of cobalt blue. You can see I am mixing complementary colors to get a beautiful grey every time, because till now I haven't painted anything that is very chromatic. Later on I will go to some of the areas, especially the focal areas, and will paint with the maximum saturation of the pigments. Like the midtone, I am doing the block-in of the light areas also with very spontaneous brushstrokes. Here the only advantage is I am already having the reference stones underneath. Once again changing the color a little bit, but you can see still it is grey. Previously it was towards the violet and now it is towards the green. The reason is same, to get the variation of the stones. In this stage, one thing to remember, that the stones coming towards the camera will be bigger than the stones receding towards the background, and then only it will create the sense of the perspective. We are painting shallow water, so some of the stones are visible above the water surface, and I am going to emphasize those. For that I am mixing titanium white, my blues, crimson lake and a touch of raw sienna. Now let's try to emphasize the stones. Here I am adding yellow to the mixture because some of the stones are getting direct sunlight coming to the leaves of the trees. Maybe there is a tree at the right hand side of this pond and through the leaves the direct sunlight is coming. Let's paint some more stones in this area. Now let's add the darks to the stones, and for that I am using ultramarine blue, deep magenta, Payne's grey and a touch of crimson lake. And let's add the darks. I am trying to create the volume of the individual stones. You can see simultaneously I have started working with two brushes, one for the lighter tone, one for the darker tone. Here I am painting wet on wet. You can see I am painting darker tone and immediately I can paint the lighter tone and I can mix it together over here only. In acrylic painting we have to blend two colors like this. In oil painting this mixing can be done later on. I am not painting each and every stones in this way but only doing it here and there so that it will give the suggestion of detailing and will not look monotonous. Alright, you can see I exaggerated some of the stones and now I am also going to paint some of the stones towards the left of the canvas. I am just giving the suggestion of the volume shadows of the stones and it is going to create the illusion of the stones underneath the water surface. This is a gentle touch of the brush and you have given the hints of the shadows. Later on I will come back to these areas and will add some light to the stones, but we don't have to give detailing to these stones. I am also planning to keep some of the areas sketchy so that it will not look like a photograph but will look like a painting. Now let's add some color variation to the stones. Mixed a kind of grey-green color and will highlight some of the areas. Mixing another color to create harmony in the painting, and all the stones will look different in size and also in color. Now let's add the highlights to the stones. For that I am taking titanium white, ultramarine blue and my red. The highlight will add the solidity of the stone. This layer is defining that this particular plane of the object is receiving the light. So right now the entire light surface I am painting it together, and later on some of the parts I will make brighter to break that particular plane, and it will give the illusion of one plane is getting a little bit more light and another plane is getting less light, or the plane is turning opposite side of the light. We just need very soft touches of the brush and it has to be very spontaneous. Now let's add the highlight also to the log, and for that I am mixing titanium white, my blues and crimson lake. You have noticed almost all my highlights I mixed a cool color, and that is because of the sky bounce. Later on I will come back and will add warm highlight wherever the direct sunlight is hitting. The middle part of the log is inside the water surface. I am differentiating that particular area by painting dark color. This line will define the adjoining area of the log and the water surface. With the highlight mixture, I am also giving some suggestion of some branches. Now let's add the highlight to the log. Alright, now I am going to paint the water surface, and for that I am taking Viridian and Indian yellow. There is a reason why I am using these two pigments, because both are transparent. By mixing these two colors, a beautiful light green color I am going to get, and I am going to apply to the whole surface. All the stones will be visible through this glaze. I will also add a little bit of crimson to make it a little bit darker, and crimson also is a transparent pigment. Gradually I will mix more yellow to this mixture. That's fine. Now let's start painting the water surface. Now let's add little more yellow to it. You can see from now itself it is looking like the stones are inside the water surface, and this is what we wanted. But I will leave some of the stones that are above the water surface. Alright, now let's paint some tree reflections on the water surface. Here I am using a very narrow round brush, but you can use a flat brush also, and you can give bigger brush strokes than this, but right now this is working for me. Now let's blend the brush strokes like this, and we have got a blurry surface. Doing the same thing, but this time the color is a little bit brighter and warmer, giving the hints of the reflection of the trees that is getting direct sunlight. Let's add some smaller strokes also. Also adding some dark lines in between. Now let's add a branch in this area, and maybe I am going to paint 2-3 birds on the branch. Alright, now let's add a broken part of a branch. Now a bird will be sitting exactly at the top of this branch. Let's paint another one. I am painting the negative space in this area so that the birds will be exaggerated. Some touches of the brush strokes and painting the highlights. Alright, now you can see with the help of some brush strokes I have got the volume of the birds. I am also feeling to add another bird in this area, but maybe later on I will come back. Now let's paint the sky reflection on the water surface. You can see I am painting the negative areas of the stones. I will not cover all the stones by this reflection, but some of the areas I will just fill up the gaps. With these tiny brush strokes, I am trying to depict how the wind is flowing through this water surface. And according to the direction, the sky is getting reflected on it. And in between, some obstacles are there, those are the stones, and creating some ripples. I'm doing the same thing towards the right hand side. Now let's add the highest specularity of this painting. We are towards the end of this painting. I am adding highlights wherever it is necessary. You can remember I thought of adding another bird in this area, so extending the branch a little bit. Now I will try to add a bird in this area with a very simplified manner. Actually, this bird is hanging from this branch. Let's add some highlights to it. Adding the beak of it, the tail, and two tiny fingers that are holding the branch. Alright, the painting is ready, and here are some close-ups. If you are having any question or having any suggestion, please write down in the comment box. Hope you enjoyed the session, and don't forget to subscribe the channel because many more painting video tutorials are coming in future. Thank you very much for watching.